Hi everyone, Danielle here, and welcome to this week's episode of the show. We had a few technical challenges as we got going today, but we are now here, and I think it's working. I think we're live. Hopefully it doesn't cut out again. But I am very excited to welcome Matt Dickson on the show with me today, who is founder of Eggpreneur, which I am so excited to learn more about. Because as I looked through your website, which is very well done, by the way, one of the better laid out and informative websites that I've seen for different projects like this. So yeah, welcome to the show, Matt. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And you're joining us all the way from Kenya. So we're crossing our fingers that our internet is going to work for us and that we can have a smooth conversation today. So I'd love for you to just take a moment and introduce yourself, Matt, and share a little bit about your background and also how you got started with Eggpreneur. And while you're talking, I'm not meant to be rude, but I am going to share our conversation into the lab while you're introducing yourself, and then we will be all set. Okay, so the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you first of all for having me today on the floor to be able to share and to talk more about Eggpreneur. My name is Matt Dickson, and as Matt Dickson is the founder and the CEO of Eggpreneur project. Eggpreneur initiative was started the year 2016. At the beginning, that was January. And mostly what we do, we work with the women in the rural Kenya to start backyard egg farming. What made me start this project was basically based on my background, being born and raised in Kenya. That was one of the key factors which contributed for me seeing the problems in the rural areas. And on top of that, number two was after gaining my education, which I did a master's in global health. My focus for my thesis was I was looking at how I could be able to improve nutrition for small children. So tying my background and my academic background to Eggpreneur was born as a way to tackle or reduce child malnutrition in the rural Kenya.
Wonderful. So 2016, has it been a full year now, or are you approaching your second year of operations?
Yes, we already started our second year of operation. We've been already operating for the last 1 year and 4 months. And now we're continuing to grow more in different areas, although we're still in one county. So it's still very young. I would say we are still a young social enterprise in the region and also in this field of backyard egg farming. But we still have a lot to be done. And by the end of the day, I can say that for the last 1 year and a half or so, or 1 year and 4 months now, it has really been exciting to be able to supervise and to work on this work.
Yeah, no kidding. From looking on your website, you had some very impressive impact numbers that you were sharing in terms of how far you guys have come up until this point, and it sounds like you're excited to keep growing and reaching more people. I'm curious, with the idea, how did it come to you, and did it take a while to figure out your model or kind of decide how you wanted to set up Eggpreneur, or was it fairly clear from the beginning? You know, how much have you changed things after you got started?
Yeah, from the beginning, starting with the Eggpreneur, when the idea came in my mind, initially, this was when I was still working in Toronto, that is in Canada. Mostly one night I had this vision of an egg, and that's why it all started there. So starting with the business model, it took me time. It took me almost 3 months. First of all, I had to go and learn about, because my background is in medical sciences, pharmacy, and also global health. So I had to move to an egg farmer outside the city to be able to learn the basic skills on how to keep poultry farming and how to be able to understand different varieties. So that was one of the key aspects for me, first of all, to understand the concept of how to keep and rear chickens. Number two was now coming on the table to see how could I developing a business model which was going to be sustainable. And because we have one motto that although Eggpreneur is the power of an egg, but we're looking to see how can I be able to, or how we can be able to build a sustainable beyond aid or beyond grants, which can be able to sustain and run by itself in the rural areas. So that was the key aspect. I had a couple of team of my classmates that I'm from McMaster, and also we ended up forming a team of board of advisors. All this team, we came on the table, and I was trying to throw up some ideas and even to see how we could be able to come with a business model. Immediately after that, I had to fly into Kenya, and I did a feasibility study. After doing a feasibility study, it gave me an idea of where to start, who to start with, and which location, because I did not know exactly where to start. But we ended up starting in Machakos County. Why? Because number one is very strategic, located at least 50 kilometers south of the capital, Nairobi City. So Nairobi was going to be the market where we could be able to expose or sell our eggs. Number two, the county also experiences a lot of drought, and there's so many children there are malnourished, and we have a lot of women who cannot be able to, due to cultural and family understanding, where they cannot be able to leave their children behind to go to the big city to look for jobs. So out of that, again, I had to, using my feasibility study, I had to also to restructure about their location, about what product and which kind of age women or the group to target. So those are some of the initial arrangement where I had to start with. As I can see now, few has changed, but we still have the same model. We're just fine tuning the business model just as time goes by. Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting to hear, because it sounds like you really followed the early stage steps pretty much to the book in terms of how we are taught to approach new ideas and to get a new venture off the ground. And you immersed yourself in the environment with which you needed to fully understand and learn how poultry farming worked. And, you know, you lived that experience, and then you did feasibility and adjusted based on what you learned there. So that's really awesome to hear somebody who's done it, followed the steps that are the most recommended. I think it might be rare. So good job.
So thank you. I think maybe because I did most of feasibility study and research for my thesis. So I ended up using some of that knowledge to see how I could be able to understand my demographic and also the target population.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm really interested to hear more about the women that you work with and that you train. And one question that I thought would be kind of fun to get your thoughts on is, so you're coming in to train these women and give them a new model for sustainability and providing eggs and, you know, increasing their economic prosperity. But I'm imagine working with them has shed a lot of new insights for you as an entrepreneur, as well as you teach them how to create this model. So what have you learned from the people that you work with in terms of, you know, their approach or their mindset or how they are choosing to run their business?
Yes, what I've learned for the last, a couple months and starting this work is that going to, working with the impoverished communities or the last mile kind of a target group or population is quite engaging. It's quite tough, to be very frank, but you just have to be able to grow the thick skin of understanding. And number two, the commitment, because if you have no commitment or have that heart of servantship. As a social entrepreneur, one thing after now putting into perspective how to start even and run a social entrepreneur, working with the rural mothers specifically at my project, one thing has been the women are so much willing and to engage and to start the business, to tap in, to be able to start their own chicken farming. Why? Because some of them have come to realize that they're eager to get out of poverty. They are eager to be able to solve their own economic and social problems within their own homestead, but they don't know how. They don't have a platform to tap into. And that has been something for me to realize that, oh, wow, look at these people. You may say that they are impoverished, they're poor. They may look as if they don't want to get out of that situation. They're so much eager to get out of that intergenerational cycle of poverty. They're only looking for a platform where they can be able to tap into. So that was something I learned from them. Number two thing I also learned from them was that the women, specifically the women who have small children, there's so much concern about how do they provide and to make sure that their children have a brighter future and a better life than they had. So that has been one of the biggest motivation for these women. They may not really want to work because they want to make money, but because when they think about their small children, what they're going to wear, how they're going to go to school, what is going to happen in their future, they tend to get cautious and get, wow, we need to work hard. We need to be able to tap to this project. So that has been one of the biggest drive I've seen from these women. Number three, I'll also say that the cultural aspect too, whereby the women are the breadwinners, which means they tend to play a key role in providing food on the table every day for their children. At the same time, due to restriction of geographical location, whereby they cannot be able to travel to the big city to get a job and drive back home or take a transit back home, they tend to stay and remain in the rural areas with no option to get any employment. So I've seen that the third aspect of it I'm talking about is they're also very eager to make some income, to create employment, and to be able to start something. So those are some of the things I've really learned working with these women. From my perspective, one of the biggest lessons I've also learned is that as a social entrepreneur, you need to be a servant, a leadership servant. Number two is about perseverance and consistency. Yes.
Really great lessons. And that's so neat to hear that the women that you work with are so motivated and definitely they're clear on their purpose for why they want to put effort into this project with you. And yes. I'm sure that shows. So that's wonderful that you can provide that platform, or at least a piece of it, or start, cultivating those opportunities for them to learn and build from as they go.
Yes.
So that's great. Now, I skipped a question when we first started because I was getting the tech organized, but I'd love to learn a little bit more about you as a person. We have a picture of the type of work that you're doing and contributing with Eggpreneur, but yes. What gets you excited? What inspires you as an individual, and how do you work that into your everyday life? How have you made some choices to set that up where you can wake up motivated and inspired every day to do the work that you do?
Yes. One thing which motivates me or keeps me going with the work of the kind of work I do is to see every day what we are having a direct impact to small children, whereby the health of the children improving. Why? Because they can be able to access free, affordable nutrition through access to eggs, which initially or before that, before their mothers joining the program, they had to go and buy the protein or look for protein. They did not have any alternative, some of them. So seeing those bright smiles of these kids every day, or their health improving, that really drives me and keeps me going and just motivates me every day. Number two, I'll also say that working with the families, seeing the confidence whereby when we were starting the program, some of the women, they were very shy. They did not want to interact with us. They were not even having hope, even for their own children or for their own livelihoods. But seeing that after some time now, after making some income, monthly income, these women have been able to gain confidence. And I'll give just a very quick example. There's a lady who has 3 children. And some of the children, because they were going to attend elementary school, they were sent out of school because she did not have enough money to pay the tuition fee for the small children. And what happened was that she got a little bit upset, but she decided to go back to school and talk to the head teacher and said to the head teacher that, don't kick my kids out of school because I have a business at home. I have chickens, I'm going to sell eggs, and I'll be able to pay the tuition fee. And the teacher looked at her and said, oh, wow, that's news, good news. Okay, can you send them back again to school? So that already told me that apart from even having the actual numbers where we can able to measure the impact, there's also intangible impact, one being which is confident about these women and to be able to see that they can able to to solve their own problems at their own means, but to be able even to share and encourage other women. So those are 2 most important things which really encourage me every day.
Mm-hmm. It must be great to see them so proud of the work that they're starting and that they're growing, and to be able to go and say that to the teacher and then keep their kids in. I mean, that's a huge win. So they wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So for you as a leader and as a founder of this program, what do you do that's different than other people that you see? Do you have an approach or a mindset or belief that you think helps set you apart or helps you achieve what you've achieved in this short amount of time and continue to do that?
Yeah, I think one of it is about having the passion. Because social entrepreneurship is a passion. Because before I ventured to start Eggpreneur, I used to work in a government research institution, and quitting that job, well-paid job in a big city, going back to the rural to be able to give takes a lot of courage. And it's all about the passion to be able to do that. Number 2, I'll also say that we're not so much different from other social entrepreneurs. We're trying to solve the most pressing problems globally. And I believe that tapping into the social entrepreneur network or group is very important. But what I can say maybe specifically for Eggpreneur is that we're looking at providing or promoting grassroots economic growth, whereby we can able to engage the underserved or less impoverished communities or families to be able to have their own sustainable resources or income for their household. So looking at that kind of a grassroots approach, which is a bottom-up approach, whereby you want to work with the rural people, whereby they can able to produce, especially in our case, they can able to produce fresh, local, organic eggs, which we don't have to import them or buy them from a big corporate, but we can be able to produce them through homesteads and be able to sell them to the restaurants, bigger restaurants in the capital city. So having that is, instead of going to the big hotels looking for food or clothing to be able to distribute to the less fortunate, we empower the rural farmers to be able to produce a product which is needed in the market, but in the same time, they also having a return of income to be able to support themselves. So to me, that what differentiates Eggpreneur from the rest, because it's about promoting a growing grassroots economic empowerment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It sounds like you've really designed a model that hits on, like you said, the grassroots bottom-up approach and yes, the financial return, the social return, in terms of the healthcare and nutrition, and really tackling the challenges on all fronts. So,
I'll also give a credit to that, not only just to myself, but also being surrounded by a very good team of advisors. At the same time, having a very good team, which I also work with, to be able to achieve all this together as a team.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And so related to that, what is the best investment that you've made in yourself or the business, whether that's with time or with money, something that you've put some effort in that's really paid off to get you where you are now?
One, I'll say that is education. Why? Because personally, being born and raised in Kenya from a very poor, humble beginnings in the rural areas, and from this, and then from town went back to the rural areas, and on top of that, also I grew up in a children's home for 15 years. So out of all that, one way which I've kind of able to say it has enabled me to be where I am today is education. Achieving very well, although most of my education came through a scholarship to be able to achieve all those programs. But by the end of it was really hard work and at the same time good performance, which I believe in investing in education personally. Also, even after finishing my master's, even currently I'm doing a program from a different program. I think that is very interesting how I ended up evolving with that. Number two, I think also being surrounded by like-minded people. How did I do that? One was tap into the social entrepreneurs who are in the same field or doing different things, but we're still tackling the most pressing issues around the world. One of that network which I ended up being part of is Eggpreneur, which have headquarter office in New York City. So, and then on top of that also, we also have a small team of entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs in Kenya, where we also meet. Why am I saying that? Because although it may look as if it's tiresome and all that, but tap into the right network or the like-minded network. It keeps you going. It keeps you realizing that because social entrepreneur is not easy. It's not just a cake and a silver plate. You really have to work hard for it. And the most important thing, you want people who can be able to help you think and troubleshoot. And I think that is one of the biggest investment I'll be able to cultivate and to make sure that I can be able to achieve that in regards at the same time with my experience and education. So I think it keeps me going. It keeps me smiling. And it keeps me having hope that we can be able to do that one family at a time with the Eggpreneur. Yes.
Wonderful. And I think you did hit exactly the whole reason why Selena and I do what we do and why we've brought you on the show to share your story and to talk about your background and the future that you see is exactly for that reason of allowing social entrepreneurs, giving spaces for you guys to connect and get inspired from each other, by each other, and get motivated because the road can be tough sometimes. And some days it can feel like you might want to give up or slow down or change gears. And then you come to a conversation where you get to hear from someone else who's doing all this great stuff in Kenya. And you're like, okay, I'm fired up again. I'm ready to go. And vice versa. So we can all support each other in that for sure. And Fiona is in the chat and she says, glad to know that you grew up in Kenya. And so thanks, Fiona, for tuning in and sharing that. Let us know if you have any questions while you're listening. For those of you who are popping in to hear Matt's story, we have a few more minutes and would just love to pick your brain a little bit more. One question that I wanted to ask, that I like to ask everybody is, what is kind of the biggest problem or challenge that you see in the practice of social entrepreneurship, or that you see other social entrepreneurs make that you think that we could improve on or could be avoided in some way?
I think as a social entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs are people who are looking to solve problems, and they may look at the problems. So we don't, sometimes when we look at the problems, we tend to say that they are problems. Most people look at them as a problem, but as a social entrepreneur, when you look at a problem, you see opportunity. You see how you can be able to turn that problem or that challenge into a business solution or into entrepreneur solution. So that mindset is very critical, and which most entrepreneur, most business people, social entrepreneur, we tend to look things from that eye lens. In the same time, they also have other challenges which may start cropping, especially once you start your social entrepreneur. One of it is that you're so much excited, you want to do this, you want to do this. You send your application here for proposal, you get a couple of grants to start your project because it's still in an idea stage. But immediately once you start now running the program or start running the business, you realize that, oh wow, there's so many other variables you have to consider. Because now, again, number one is top notch is sustainability. How do you create a business model? How do you create even a platform which is sustainable beyond the grants or beyond the funding? So that is one thing which I've seen so many social entrepreneurs jumping into that and realizing that, wow, we need to start thinking outside the box on how to go that. It's normal. But I would say that one of the solutions to be able to tackle that would be creating networks of social entrepreneurs, whereby having a very good backup of either serial entrepreneurs or even mentors who can be able to back up not only just financially or funding, but through continuous support or mentoring, or even matching, whereby, because sometimes you just need somebody who has already done that or who has been running a couple of business to be able to tell you 1, 2, 3, 4 things. This is where you need to tweak your business model, or this is where you need to look at your financial to make sure that your financial makes sense. So some of those network or mentoring, I would call them like a platform whereby a social entrepreneur can be able to tap to, number one, resources. Number two is the mentoring part of it, and also I think those are some of ways which can be a little bit more interesting to encourage and to make sure that an entrepreneur, an early startup who has some challenge can be able to learn something and be able to jump to another step. Because one of the biggest challenge, again, number two, I would say it is traction, whereby you have started your business, you've been running for 1 year or 2 years, now you want to start preparing to scale. The difference between now running that business, starting up, and now starting scaling, you really need to be able to show traction to invest, to attract investors. And attracting investors, you really have to be able to prepare what I call investor readiness, to be able to pitch to an investor who can be able to see your traction, what you have been selling, what have you been able to do, on top of the financial aspect part of it, but also the impact of your program. So those two things, the impact and the financial aspect part of it, those are things which can be able to prepare or attract a very good potential investor to be able to invest. So, but having those networks or mentoring or support, I think is very crucial, because doing that transition is very important for a social entrepreneur.
And to have that outside perspective, or somebody who has been there or on a similar path before, to be able to just flag certain questions or certain things to watch out for or to think about.
Exactly.
For sure. So I have to ask, because you mentioned you were involved with Echoing Green at one point. What was your favorite part of that experience? Were you a fellow with them?
Yes, I'm an Echoing Green fellow for 2016.
Wonderful. How was it? They're quite a well-regarded group, so I'd be interested.
Very well regarded organization, a very good platform. I've really enjoyed it. It was very, very competitive, but at the end of the day, going through the process, the application, it has really been very, very instrumental. And I can proudly say that after tapping to the Echoing Green support and mentoring, and at the same time their follow-up, it has been very crucial and very instrumental for me even to be able to achieve and have the impact I have today. So those are some of the benefits I was also trying to share. Eggpreneur Green has also been a very, very instrumental platform for Eggpreneur.
Wonderful. Yeah, with the mentorship and network and all those things that you described would come with that as well. So That's fabulous, Matt. I want to just open the floor in case you have any last words that you want to share before we wrap up, kind of anything that's on your mind or anything that you have coming up or any way that our listeners and viewers can support you going forward.
Yes, I think at this time, first of all, is just to appreciate. Thank you so much for having me on air on this show. Change Makers Association has really, I think this is a place to be and the place where people can be able to engage as social entrepreneur, listen from different discussion from different social entrepreneur having impact across the globe and the different part of the world. Number two, it's really honor to be able to share Eggpreneur story and to be able to engage different audience out there who are also willing to be able to learn something from us, or maybe where I can be able to learn something from them, and where they can be able to reach out on our website. But the most important thing also, I also want to mention for other startups or other business or other social entrepreneurs, that entrepreneurship is not just a walk in the park, but the most important thing is that when you see the impact and the social impact, and when you look back and be able to see the kind of the traction you can be able to see or to have going forward is very, very important. Lastly, I will also say that it takes perseverance and hard work at the same time remaining very focused on what you're working on, because once you remain focused, you're committed, and your perseverance, you can be able to see a lot of growth, and at the same time you can also be able to see a lot of impact in every business, regardless of any social entrepreneur out there in the world.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Matt, for being on the show and for sharing your story. I'm sure that it has inspired a lot of people listening and will continue to do so as it lives on in the internet and reaches more people in the future. So just in closing, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you or stay up to date on what Eggpreneur is up to?
Yes. People can get engaged and getting updated weekly, and then at the same time monthly. We do write blogs. So first of all, it's on our Eggpreneur website, which is www.eggpreneur.com. Going on the blog, you can be able to find us there, look at what we have. We always update that monthly. Number two, people can be able to reach out on our Twitter handle, which is @Eggpreneur. At the same time, people can be able to follow us and get updated through our Facebook page, which is Eggpreneur. And lastly, people can also be able to send direct email to me, which is Matt, which is MATT @eggpreneur.com. So these are some of the ways people can be able to reach us to us.
Great. And your name is unique enough that you got all your social media, no problem.
Exactly. Thank you. We just opened an Instagram, so that'll be another thing. Yes.
Awesome. I'll check it out, and we'll definitely stay in touch. And this was a lovely conversation, Matt. Thank you so much for tuning in and being live with us across time zones, across the world, and the internet cooperated once we got started. So thanks for everyone who tuned in as well. And we will talk soon on the show every Wednesday. And if you guys who are listening now or in the future are not signed up to get our updates every week on telling you what time we are going live with the show each Wednesday and who we have on the show, you can sign up at globalsocentlab.com/show, and you will get all the info every Tuesday. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and thank you, Matt, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.